Hey, good morning, Ruben. Quick demo video for you for your Korbanth Darksaber. Actually, maybe not too quick because I do have a lot of things to tell you about this one because this one was very unique compared to the other three, four, or five that I've done before. But we'll get into all the details, right? I did weather this up with some aluminum black because you wanted it darkened a little bit, so it may not pick up well on camera, but all these aluminum pieces are darker now than they were in the previous pictures that I showed you. This is a one-button setup, so everything happens from this guy right here. And then how to get to everything is you want to take the screw out, but for the purpose of this demo, I've got it out already. And it looks like this. Once you take it out, it's got that little black triangle. I just dropped it. But anyway, it comes off basically in three pieces. So you take those three pieces off, and then you can take your pommel and you can pull it off right here. And then you'll see your chassis in there. This is a little bit something different than I've done with the previous versions, but I put a little thing right there for your thumb to grab onto. So you could just pull the chassis out just like that. And this is your chassis. That's that thing I was talking about right there. Right, but you've got your Proffie board right here. Obviously, you've got put a kill switch in here for you. It's set to off right now. You've got a 28mm Smuggler's Outpost dark side speaker in here. It sounds really good. And then you have a removable battery set up, and we'll go over all that. We'll fire it up. But let's talk about the hilt for a second. This hilt was extremely difficult to install. I probably spent about 2 hours yesterday filing the inside of this handle down with one of these, right? I actually have about 2 or 3 different ones, but this was the main one that I used because for whatever reason on this one, the machining on the inside of this handle to get the chassis to fit was it's still 2 different diameters. So I had to go back. I actually had a chassis printed, back when you first told me you wanted me to do this for you a couple weeks ago. I printed a chassis out. I had it set to the side. I couldn't use that one. So normally I don't have to sand them at all. I ended up sanding that one for about 30 minutes and it still would not fit. I had to go into my model and take off about 0.01 inches off the entire diameter of this oval right here. And then I still ended up having to sand the front of this guy quite a bit, but then I finished it, so you'll never be able to tell that I sanded it. But yeah, I spent another 30 minutes sanding just the front side of that chassis to fit up in here. And then this is something that will not pick up on camera no matter how hard I try. But when you get this in person and you look down in there, right in the back or towards the emitter here, probably around this area right here, you're going to notice roughly there's like 5 little nubs in there that had to be filed down. And the problem with trying to get, or the challenge to try to file those down is this is the only place I can come in, right? I have to come in through the pommel area and come all the way up here to try to file those down. So I can't put any leverage on them, to get them down. I have to do everything straight on. All 5 of them. They all 5 had to be filed down so the chassis would fit. I've never seen that in these guys before. I don't know why they're here. I got it filed down to the point that the chassis will fit fine, and you can get it out fine if it doesn't have a battery in it. You can take it out with your hand, just like we did at the beginning. So it is a tight fit. You'll feel it as you're pushing it forward. But with no battery in it, you can come in here and you can pull it out. When there's a battery in it, though, it is extremely tight, and I do have a trick of getting the chassis out, but it's something that you're going to have to be careful doing, and we'll go over all of that, okay? Well, let's throw a battery in. Actually, before we throw a battery in, let's talk about your blade. The blade was the second point of challenge right for me. This morning, I went to do this blade because, as you know, I got the saber done last night, and I just called it quits for the day. The first thing I wanted to do this morning was get this blade done. I opened up the blade, and I noticed it was wired up, and I was like, okay, great, Put it in the saber. The saber did not light up, the blade did not light up. So I cracked this open. I thought, okay, well, maybe it's on the wrong data pad. So I swapped data pads put it back in, it didn't work. Because on these PCBs, there's 2 data pads. Usually I just use 1, right? But you have to use the same one that you used on your chassis. Those 2 pins in the middle, right in the middle. If I go like this, you can see those 2 A's. There's a pin above an A and there's a pin below an A. Those are both data lines. They're like data 1 and data 2. Typically, I'll just pick one, right? If I use data 1 on my chassis, I need to wire to data 1 here. So I swapped that out, but it didn't work. So I thought, okay, well, maybe the LED strips in here were wired backwards, right? Because on these particular ones from Korbanth, because this blade does come with strips, there's no arrows telling you which way the lights go. Like on a normal strip, you'd say, if the arrow went this way, I'd wire over here. So everything just fired up this way, right? There's no arrows on those. So I swapped the strip. That still did not work. Cracked it open again and found out like the first 2 pixels in the series were damaged. So if you have, 50 pixels going through your strip, and you get to pixel number 30 and it's damaged, it's only going to light up to pixel 30, and then the rest of them won't light, right? So the first 2 pixels on this strip were damaged, so I had to take those out. It was the first 2 pixels on one strip, and then the first pixel on another strip. There's actually 2 strips in here back to back. This guy was a beast, right? But I finally got it, but it did come to me bent. It may not be something that you see on camera. I tried my best to try to use a heat gun a little bit and try to flex it back straight. I got most of it. If you look at it like this and straight down, you're going to see it. Maybe you can kind of see it if I go like that, right? It's going off this way, which is a lot better than it was. But I was afraid of doing that too much because I didn't want to break the blade. This blade, although it looks nice, it is rather cheap. It's cheaply made, and it can break easily. So I did as best as I could to straighten that guy out, and I got it better, but it's not perfect. And also, your tips of your blade came damaged. I'm going to try to get that on camera for you here. You can see that right there. They're both like this guy was dropped or something. And it wasn't due to shipping, because this blade was exactly in the middle of the shipping box and it was covered with packing peanuts. So there was nothing touching the blade. It was something I noticed immediately when I picked it up, because I had actually grabbed it out of the box from right here and pulled it and kind of snagged my hand on that curve. So yeah, that's what's going on with your blade. I bent it back the best I could. I did not mess with the tip because I was afraid I was going to break it. And then the wiring for the LED strips was just all out of whack, right? But this is actually the first blade I've seen from Korbanth that even came wired. Typically, it's a blade. It's got the 2 strips in it, but you have to wire it yourself. And then this is also the first blade I've seen where they came in here and they put that black screw there, and they put another black screw here to hold this PCB holder in. Normally, you would have to glue that in, and then I tape it down and set it off to the side because it's such a tight fit. So there's a lot of different things going on with this. I'm not sure if you got like the second batch of Korbanth Darksabers, but the first batch was a lot better. So yeah, that's the blade. The saber, though, the saber is what took forever. I thought I'd sit down and have this done in an hour or so, and this project took me the better part of yesterday to even make sure that I could get a chassis system inside of this handle. I mean, it is just, and the nubs don't really make any sense to me because they're not in a place where the saber comes together. So I'm not exactly sure why they're in there, but they just weren't machined out or something. I'm not sure of the process to make this guy, but I know for sure that those weren't supposed to be in there. But anyway, now let's throw a battery in the chassis. I'll send this battery with you. I did take the sticker off, and it helps, but it's still super tight. And I'll show you how to get this chassis out of the Saber, at the very end of the demo, right? So we'll throw this guy in here. Make sure it's tight and all the way in. You're not going to hear anything, obviously, because the kill switch is set to off, but we'll come over here and flip the kill switch.
I sense much fear in you.
So everything is working there. So when you put this in the saber, you just want to make sure that this tactile switch right here is your switch. So you want to make sure that's on the same side as your white button right here, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll slide that all the way in. It's going to be very tight when you push it in. Just go ahead and keep going. You can get it right past that lip on the actual handle there. You see how that chassis is past there, and then you can take your pommel, push your pommel in, push it all the way in, and the actual pommel will push the chassis all the way forward, and it will do the rest of the work for you. So now I'll go ahead and I'll lock that piece down that we had to take off to put the pommel on, or take the pommel off. The pommel will only go in one way, or I'm sorry, the pommel will go on two ways, but the screw will only screw in if the pommel is a particular way, right? So you've got your switch up here, and your switch is up here, and your bevel is down here with the D-ring. So that's how that aligns, and you're able to screw that in. But once you've got that in, you can hit power. Very good sounding for the small amount of sound venting available. I didn't give you swing on because there's so much to do to put the chassis in, but I went ahead and I gave you twist off, right? So you will have to activate it like this. And this is also your blaster bolt deflex. But you can twist it off. Just like that. And we'll put the blade in real quick and I'll show you what the blade does. Now, before you put the blade in, you've got 4 screws here. You got these 2 and you've got these 2. You need to make sure that they're backed all the way out of the blade socket because there are 4 holes in the actual blade. You can see them right here and here. And then you've got another 2 over here. Those match up with those 4 screws, and that's how you tighten the blade down. So I got those 4 screws tightened down. The blade is nice and locked into the emitter, right? We'll turn this off and we'll hit activation. Now you got your blade firing up. Again. Nice shine through in your windows. To play your soundtrack, it's a double tap on your switch. And then it's another double tap to turn it off. Just like that. To trade sound fonts, it's a long press on the switch.
It is the Darksaber. They're pod racing on Malastare. Very fast, very dangerous.
This is an orange unstable to go with pod racing. This is a good one to see your blaster bolt deflex. If you want blade lockup, you have to hold down the button and hit the saber at the same time. And you got your blade lockup right here. Moving up and down the blade. See it right here. That's right here. And then it'll stop and you let go of the button. Just like that. We'll go ahead and we'll take the blade out of this guy. And this is a lengthy process, so I'll probably cut this out and be back when the blade is out. Okay, the blade's all out. So what we want to do also is take the pommel out, which is something that I forgot to do while I was taking the blade out, but that's okay. This only takes a second. Go ahead and take that screw out. Make sure you don't lose any of those pieces because it does come off in 3 different pieces, and then we can just pull this out. Now, in order to get this chassis out with the battery in, you need something thin that's got kind of a blunt tip. I'm using my Allen key because it's got a rounded tip here. This is a larger Allen key than the one that I used for these 4 screws in the pommel. You want to come in here, and there's 2 places on this PCB that you can press, and you won't touch any pins, right? It's a little hard to see inside the saber, but I'll show you that as soon as I get it out. So it's important that you don't press on the pins, but you can pop the chassis out about this far, and then from here you can go ahead and grab it, and you can use some force and pull it out. We'll turn it on, and I'll show you that the kill switch works. Right here, we'll come flip it, and it kills everything just like it should. And then you can come over here with your finger and pop the battery out. Now, the more that you put this chassis in and out, it'll probably work its way. It'll probably work its way just a little bit where it's a lot easier to take out. But I've put it in and out of this saber probably about 30 times already. It is getting a little bit easier, but I don't see it getting too much easier than what it is right now. Now, if I show you this PCB, you can see right on that A and that A, right, there's those dead spots right there that don't have any pins, that you can come over here and you can press on it with something that has a blunt tip. You don't want anything with a sharp tip. That is my best solution for getting this thing out of the saber with a battery in it. It took most of the day to even get a chassis inside of this guy because of the multiple different diameters and those 5 different bump outs in there that had to be filed down. All right, so hopefully that's acceptable to you. Let me know if you got any questions, and if not, if everything looks good to you, I can get this out in the mail to you later today. All right, thanks.